Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinarium. My name is Valdo Kalm. I'm in charge of Port of Tallinn, and Andrus Ait is our CFO. As usually, we will start with main events in Q1. And we will start with record vessel calls on Tallinn-Helsinki line. That's really record. And also we got quite a nice development on growth of passengers. Then icebreaker Botnica signed a contract with Baffinland, that's company in Canada, for summer work. But here we can also add that just recently we announced that there is another contract for the rest 2 months with Equinor. It's one of the biggest energy companies in Scandinavia, and Botnica got a job to serve wind parks on the coast of UK. Therefore, excellent coverage for this summer with very good dues. Also, we got positive court ruling to the end of the legal dispute with Selka and Väinamere Lines. And we signed additional MoU with Utilitas Wind for the development of offshore wind farms and to use our Paldiski port. And we announced of the passenger terminal architectural competition, and that's now ongoing. We got that was international competition, of course, or tender. We got almost 30 offers, and now we're working on that, and if there will be a decision, we will announce who won, and then it goes for the design phase. Also, public discussions of sketch designs for the detailed plans of Old City Harbour happened in January, and that was quite successful because we got very little and not very serious feedback. Therefore, we definitely go on and move as fast as possible with our detailed plan together with city government. Trends in Q1 by the segments. On passenger side, we have seen continuous strong growth in passenger numbers, and it's valid not only for the Helsinki, but also we had some 90% growth on Stockholm line, and as we already mentioned, increase in vessel calls and definitely in revenues and EBITDA. That means Q1 was a continuing recovery from pandemic. In cargo, decline in volumes 31%, of course in revenues also, but less. And that's due to the EU sanctions. I would like to remember that last year, Q1, we basically had all Russian and Belarus transit bulk in place. Therefore, the basis was very high. Although we had good news also on cargo side that in Q1, RoRo continued the growth. That shows at least such a normal development on Estonian export-import. Of course, part of that is transit also, but RoRo is nowadays most profitable cargo type, therefore that's a good message. In ferry business, revenue growth was 13% from additional trips and indexation. And under the other segment, Botnica made also very stable quarter, and revenue increased due to the higher charter fee coming from the contract with Transport Administration. Here we see the passenger volumes. Just to remind that we finished last year on level 7 million, and definitely our aim is to catch again record year 2019 pre-COVID time, 10 plus million. And so far the recovery is there. On cargo side, quite a sharp decline due to the war. And as I mentioned, it comes from liquid bulk and dry bulk. Shipping or ferry volumes very stable. Recovery from COVID was also quite quick. As I mentioned, state ordered additional trips due to the growth in passengers and vehicles. Therefore, our ferry business shows very stable and even growth development. Same for Botnica, stable Q1, and also there are numbers from last year, and last year's utilization rate is very stable. And hopefully this year will be the similar or even a little bit higher. Future outlook. We believe that passenger business shows recovery in Q2, Q3. We working on that. We have had and we have very good cooperation with our operators. Therefore, we do what we can, and therefore we are quite positive because we have seen different new segments traveling more from Helsinki, and hopefully, the recovery continues. Still, we have impact from sanctions. If you remember, then we announced the impact for full year. But was basically lower than we prognosed, but part of this impact is valid for the last year, but some 3 million is impacting this year, and it's really difficult to say when the war will end. But that's the reality, and we're working with another cargo types and another channels to find the growth. Very important in this case is to develop ro-ro and containers, and that's our strategic goal to have a growth in ro-ro to serve better Scandinavia. I mean Finland and Finnish export. And just recently we launched a new ramp. It's double ramp in Muuga, and that immediately shows up in revenues also, because Eckerline added one additional trip per day to that, and the results from Muuga showing very such a nice development. Then to the let's put it to the future growth area. That's offshore business, and specifically in offshore wind farms, where we would like to take the part, and in the coming weeks we will announce who is the winner of tender to construct the quay and fulfill the land in Paldiski Harbour. If you remember, then our decision was to invest 53 millions, and if we sign the contract, then we start immediately to construct the quay. That's one part of that, but also we working with new contracts in shipping, Botnica's new contract with Equinor shows precisely the need of offshore ships in this area, and Botnica is moving to UK coast to serve offshore wind farms. That's exactly the experience what we need, and therefore we see that offshore business is increasing. We even analyzing. There are no decisions, but we're analyzing maybe we charter or we will build another offshore ship. Therefore, offshore wind farms, the installment or construction, and then the maintenance and serving these wind farms are definitely future growth area, and we're preparing to that very seriously to offer more such a value-based and all value chain offer to developers. Then also this year we making the preparation for the real estate business. If everything goes okay, then hopefully next year we will see the confirming of detailed plannings, and then we immediately announce the tenders for developers to really start with real estate business. Yeah, Andrus,
thank you,
please.
Valdo. Good afternoon from my side as well, and I will go on with the financial results of the group in Q1 2023. Revenue increased by 6.1% and amounted to 28.4 million euros. And the growth was mainly supported by higher number of passengers, also record number of vessel calls in our passenger harbors, and also shipping segments supported the growth quite strongly. Adjusted EBITDA increased by 0.6% up to level 13.6 million euros. The growth here is significantly lower than in revenue. Here we must bring out the negative impact from the costs, especially from labor expenditures due to the cost pressure and salary increases made over last year, and also we had a change in motivation system took effect from this year. And also operating costs increased. The three cost items which impacted the growth most were mooring costs, also maintenance costs for infrastructure, and also cost of receiving waste from the ships which visiting our ports. Due to the higher cost, the adjusted EBITDA margin lowered from 50% to 48%. Operating profit decreased by 6% and amounted to 6.8 million euros. Here we must bring out the one-off effect from write off the assets in amount of 800,000 euros. This is related to the amendment in public sector accounting rules, which are applicable also for Port of Tallinn in Estonia. So according to this amendment, the threshold for recognizing the assets as non-current was increased from 5,000 euros to 10,000 euros, and due to that we had to write off the assets in amount of 0.8 million euros. Income tax, we didn't pay any income tax in the first quarter, as we will pay out dividends in the second quarter. Payout day will be day after tomorrow. the 12th of May. Profit for the period decreased by 1.5 million euros or by 21%, and profit for the period was 5.7 million euros. And here we have also impact from higher interest rates as we paid more interests in amount of 0.9 million euros. We invested 1.5 million euros in the first 3 months of this year, which is relatively low level. The main projects were made in Old City Harbour, where we completed the surrounding area of Terminal D, and in Muuga we completed and opened the new 2-story ramp to serve the Ro-Ro traffic there, and both of those investments are good base to increase the revenue in Ro-Ro, from Ro-Ro and from passenger harbour segment. But here it's important to also mention that we expect that in the second half of the year the investment level will increase significantly as we will start the investment project or the new key construction in Paldiski South Harbour. As we look at the revenue and profitability over the years, we see that in 2020 there was drop both in revenue and on EBITDA level because of the start of pandemic. But since then we have been able to increase the revenue over the years. The adjusted EBITDA have been quite stable despite the company has been impacted by pandemic, and after that by sanctions on Russian and Belarusian cargo. But the EBITDA level has been quite stable or flat throughout the years, and this goes also for the first quarter 2023, as the revenue increased and the EBITDA was quite same level as year before in the first quarter. When we look at the results by segment wise, we see that the growth on EBITDA and revenue we have managed to achieve in 3 segments out of 4. The most successful results came from passenger harbours, as the revenue there increased by 2 million euros. It was mainly supported by higher number of vessel calls, and therefore we had 1 million extra revenue or additional revenue from vessel use. We had a higher number of passengers, and passenger fees increased by 700,000 euros, and also the rental fee from renting out the, and also the adjusted EBITDA increased quite significantly. Ferry segment also supported the growth in revenue by 1 million euros. This is due to the indexation, and also EBITDA increased. And on EBITDA level, we have managed to keep the costs quite stable in this segment, and the consumption of fuel has been also decreasing per trip. So therefore, here the EBITDA has increased. In the segment other, revenue increased by 300,000 euros due to the new contract with the Transportation Administration for next 10 years for the icebreaking service in Estonia, on the Estonian coast. And from that contract we have higher contractual fee. In the segment other, the EBITDA remain quite the same level as year before, the EBITDA increased from the activities of Botnica, but at the same time decreased the EBITDA from our joint venture company Green Marine, where the project-based revenues were lower, and therefore also EBITDA from that decreased. And cargo harbors, due to the lower cargo volumes because of the sanctions, revenue decreased by 18%, or 1.8 million euros, and also EBITDA decreased. In revenue, vessel dues decreased by 1 million euros, cargo charges about 200,000 euros, and also sale of electricity was lower, 400,000 euros, due to the lower price and due to lower consumption, which is related with a lower amount of cargo. But here is also, I want to bring out that three largest segments, passenger harbors, cargo harbors, and ferry segments, are quite equal in size, both on revenue and on EBITDA. So all those segments are contributing to our results equally. On cash flow side, we see that cash from operating activities decreased year on year by 1.5 million euros, as the payments to the suppliers and payments to employees increased more than receipts from sale of goods and services. Cash used in investing activities reflects the low investment level, and cash flow was free cash flow was 11.8 million euros, which is 2.3 million euros more than a year earlier at the same period. Cash used in financing activities increased by 900,000 euros, which is related to higher financing costs due to the higher Euribor level. And net cash flow was positive 7.8 million euros, which is 3.4 million euros more than in first quarter 2022. And net debt at the end of period decreased by 27 million euros due to the loan repayments, but also we had 10 more million euros cash on bank accounts, which also decreased the net debt level. And on financial position, here we don't see any significant change when we compare the results the year-end period last year. Cash has increased, and we have paid back loans in amount 3 million euros, but the financial position is quite stable and good, and enables us to keep our dividend promise and pay out dividends. But with that, we will conclude our presentation, and we'll be back in a few minutes to answer your questions. Thank you.
First question, what we got advanced. What will be the business model for development of old city port area? We have decided together with our supervisory board that the main model for real estate development is the building title or building right model, that we will announce tenders to developers, and then we will sign the long-term rental or building title contracts. But also there are two other models available. If there is some very interesting project for the port or for the area, then of course we can invest also partly or fully and will come as a developer. But the main model is building title. About timeline and about the first cash flow. As I already mentioned, if everything goes well, then this year we call it preparation, and if that goes well, then next year hopefully we will have at least some areas fixed or agreed with detailed plans, and then actually we will immediately start the tender. Therefore, first revenues probably next year. Second question, what is the business model of the port of Paldiski in relation of development of offshore wind farms? Here we invest for infrastructure, and we're using our basic model that we will collect port dues from the ships, and we would like to have rental agreements with developers. As we already mentioned, we signed 4 MOUs with developers, and that's the main model to collect the rental and port dues. Also, we see that there is possible to a bit widen the value chain. As I mentioned, we have free plots in our Paldiski port, and then in other side we analyzing just now, maybe there is a business case to charter or even build the offshore ship. About the first cash flows and timeline, again, key must be ready on spring summer 2025. That means again, then we would like to immediately have contracts fixed on these keys, and hopefully the cash flows will show up 2025.
Next question. What will be the structure of financing Paldiski new quay? The European Commission co-financing is 20 million, but how is the rest of the investment divided between equity and loan capital? Yes, correct. We will finance the investment, which is 53 million euros. 20 million of that we will finance by support money from EU. About 25 million we plan to finance with additional loan, and the rest of the investment will be equity. But we will sign the contract probably in the second half of May in the coming weeks, and then we are able to do more precise estimations about cash flow in connection with this project, and then we can plan what the financing exact number of loan will be. Here is also one question regarding cargo volumes. about the decreased cargo volumes, to the revenue and EBITDA decrease in this segment was in line with your projections in the beginning of the year or different? We can say that the decrease in revenue and EBITDA in cargo segment is quite in line with our forecast in the beginning of the year. Regarding costs, actually we didn't expect that the electricity price will lower so quickly. From that, we have actually more positive results due to that. But generally, we can say that cargo segment goes quite in line with our plans in the beginning of the year. And final question. Please confirm that excluding one-time write-off, the net profit decreased by 0.7 million euros. Yes, correct. The impact of the write-off the assets was 700,000 euros to the profit. So it seems that there is no more questions. Thank you for participating, and see you next time.
Thank you. See you next quarter.